It's snowing today, and that makes it the perfect day to do seed starting because I clearly can't do anything in the garden today. Last week, I started all my dahlia tubers. I'm in the seed room now. And as you can see, here's all my dahlia tubers. Well, some of them, not very many of them. This whole shelf is mostly full of them, and there's a few on the top of the shelf over here, which if I spin you around, you can just see they're up here. And I took a count. I ended up starting, what have I got here? 205 dahlia tubers started. Oh, I got that lifted up a bit too high. And 205 tubers started, like this. And it took me 6 hours, so that worked out to 1 minute, 1.76 minutes per pot. So I thought that was pretty good, and I just thought that would be interesting information for you. That's actually more dahlias than I need for my garden beds. So if I don't want to buy any this year, you know, depending on how things go, I don't actually have to. I have enough. I was hoping to sell off some of the ones that I have and then purchase some new ones for experiments. But it's only February 3rd today. We shall see what happens in the world before I decide whether or not I'm going to spend some money on doing some experiments this year. I did order some seeds for experimenting. I ordered Celosia Selway Terracotta, Lizzie Roseanne 2 Terracotta, and Bells of Ireland. I ordered them on January 6th. I got the email on January 11th saying they were processed and being shipped. Still don't see them, and if you track your package, it doesn't even say it's being shipped yet. So I don't know what's happening with those. I paid for them already. So, I mean, they've been put on my credit card and I've paid for them already, but there's no sign of them actually having been shipped out yet. So don't know what's happening with that. I will have to phone Johnny's probably tomorrow and see what's going on with my seeds. But if they're not even shipped yet, it's getting pretty late to be starting those, which is unfortunate. The other thing I mentioned last week when I was starting the dahlia tubers was that my pump sprayer, this thing, where you, well, I didn't mention it. I found out because I wanted to use where the pump isn't holding any pressure anymore, which isn't surprising because last year it was leaking all over the place. I need a new one. But I want to support our local Campbell River Garden Center. So I thought they opened on February 1st, which was Saturday, which was a couple of days ago, but they're not opening actually until tomorrow, and we've got snow now, so it's not a reason for me to postpone this video, postpone the seeds starting, because I don't know how much snow we're going to get. I'm hoping it's just the little bit that you saw that you see on this clip. But I also need vermiculite, and I need to buy that from them, and I need to buy a couple more of the bottom trays. I really like these sturdy bottom trays. They're $8. I was hoping to find a few more of these thrifted bins over the course of the winter so I wouldn't have to buy them, but I didn't end up with enough of them. The other thing that I mentioned last week that I want to go over with you guys is I said that on my wall here, I showed you on my wall here, I've got, oops, can't see that. Spin you over farther. You can see here I've got, as I knock that over, foil on the walls. And that is for light reflection. So now that I got my grow lights on, it will bounce off the foil and put even more light into the room. And I'm just using simple kitchen foil. This is Alcan. You know, it's like in a, what is that, a 15-inch width? 1 foot width, 15-inch? Something like that. It's 100 feet long. 11.8 inches wide. So it's got a flat side and a shiny side. I put it behind all my seed trays. I've got it in here, inside here on the walls. It just adds a lot of light reflection, which helps for your seedlings. Okay, I'm now going to spin you around so that I'm not on the vertical, because it's much better to talk to you guys when it's on the horizontal. One sec. Okay. That's better. Before we start with the seeds starting, I just wanted to go over, just so that you know where we're at temperature-wise. I said it's our first snowfall of the year. We're actually having our first day where the high is sub-freezing. So today our high is -3, and tonight it's going to go down to -7. Tomorrow the high will be better. It will be -1, but the low will be 1 degree colder, which is -8. And then we're going to go back into regular temperatures, which is above freezing during the day and maybe hovering around -2, -3 at night, which is nothing special. But yeah, I just wanted to go over that a little bit. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is for my seed starting, because as you can see, my seed room is quite small. And there's a number of things that I want to start. Now, in order for me to know what room I have for my seeds, the first thing I do is I draw up elevations of my seed room. So this is the big low rack over here. And then I've got the 2 racks that are over here. Now I lay out where things are going to go. I always have dahlias across here and on these 4 shelves and on the top of these 2. That's standard. I always put them there. And then what I do is I look at the leftover space and I look at what I want to plant and I allocate what goes where according to that before I ever actually start doing the seeds themselves, so that I can adjust and decide how I want to do things. Now, what I did was I left 1 full tray of 10 pots here and 1 small tray of whatever pots in here empty. And in theory, those are going to be for the experiments. So the little one was supposed to be for the what were those things called? The Celosia, the Lisianthus, and the Bells of Ireland that I ordered from Johnny's. Celosia Selway Terracotta, Lizzie Roseanne 2 Terracotta, and Bells of Ireland. They were going to go in that little flat for my experiments, but seeds aren't here. So if I go ahead and do some experiments with some new dahlias, they will go not only in this empty flat here, but also in that little one over there, unless I change my mind and put something else in there. But those 2 trays are my trays for experiments after I've done all my seed starting. So then what we have, here I'm just going to go this way so that you can see it with me. So on the bottom tray of that unit down there, I'll just tip you down there so you can see. It's right on the floor. And that's where I'm going to start 6 trays of ranunculus. And I've got the numbers that each tray holds because I don't have consistent containers for starting the ranunculus. So some trays hold more than others. Example, this one holds 60, this one will hold 36. So I've got that across the bottom. And these numbers are important because I know I have a total of 550 ranunculus, or 15 trays, based on a certain number, and 129 anemones. So I can add up what I've got in each tray the way it's laid out and figure out if I have enough space. So then on the shorter tray on the other side, it's going to be sweet peas, lettuce, sweet peas, snaps, bachelor buttons, anemones, tomatoes, anemones, and then ranunculus throughout this whole tray over here. So I've got my layout. And with that layout, I also was in here yesterday figuring out how it was going to go, because I normally like to do my ranunculus in these types of pots. And these types of pots, I put a little division in here, and then I can put 1 there and 1 there. And it literally keeps the roots separate so that when they're big enough and I'm planting them out, I'm not messing with tangled up roots. The problem is I don't have enough of these, because I increased my stock of anemones this year by buying, I'll tell you the name of it later on in the video. So I'm having to also go into my stash of recycled pots like this, which people kindly leave for me at my flower wagon because they think I could use them. They just put them there. I don't know who puts them there. Sometimes one of my neighbors across the street, he gives me a lot of his pots. But lots of times it's just people just leaving them there with a little note saying, I thought you might be able to use these. And I can. So I have quite a few of these. I've got one of these, you know, and so forth and so on. It's a real random selection of what I've got. But that's all recycled, which makes it great. So the other thing I'm going to do is ask you to give me a like if you're enjoying this video so far. Okay, we're going to start with the sweet peas. Now, before I start planting the sweet peas, I'm going to show you how I get the seeds going. So I put them in dirty, because I just reuse these all the time. I was using these for sunflowers all last year, and the sunflowers at the sweet peas at the beginning of the year. You can see this one says red lemon bicolor. That's sunflower. I've been soaking my sweet peas in here for 24 hours. Now, sweet peas are really little roly-poly seeds. So I'm just going to quickly change the camera angle and show you how I count out the seeds without them rolling all over the place. So first of all, I have my seeds. This is literally all my seeds. I am not one of those people who just buys seeds because I'm lusting after the seeds. I only buy the seeds that I want to use. I don't see any point in buying anything else. I'm a small, tiny urban flower farmer. I don't need a lot of things growing. So this is literally my complete seed collection. And I keep it in the fridge. That way everything's gone through its cold stratification period, whether it needs it or not. These stay in the in the fridge all year round. Exactly like this. So then I tend to have my seeds in order of how I'm going to use them. So we're talking about sweet peas first, and that is literally the first one in this basket. And when I'm done the sweet peas, they will go at the back because I don't need them anymore. Now, I put in here, how many did I put in here? 4, 8, 16, 32 seeds, because I'm doing 16 cells of sweet peas. I'm doing 2 per cell, and I will not be dividing them. I'll be planting them that way. But if sweet pea seeds are really, really rolly, I mean, they are, well, can you see that? They are completely round, so they roll all over the place. So what I do is I get them in one spot, and then I use a container like this. It's almost like your pharmacist, the way they do medicine, kind of. I put this underneath the rim of my table, and then I count them out that way. They go into the container as I'm counting them. And then, when I'm finished counting them, well, I'm not going to do it because these, oh, I have one in here that doesn't have anything in it, so it won't get wet. So then I'm going to take my canning jar and just pour them in there that way, and they don't roll around at all. So then when I want to put the rest of them back into the envelope, same thing. I've got the envelope, and I just pour them in there. It's so easy. Such a time saver. Now, I've already got the sweet peas soaking, so these are now going to go into the back of my seeds. So we are now going to set, oh, before I did that, so you remember when I was doing the dahlias last week, I had a, here, I can put this back up here now because it was in my way. I had this here and I showed you that one was for rocks, which I've dumped, and one was for plant debris, which I didn't dump, because also in my containers of soil, because I use my garden soil for seed starting, worms always end up in there because my yard is, my flower beds are just so full of worms, it's not funny. And they tend to mate and propagate in my garbage cans full of soil, and they help clean out any other plant debris that's in there and actually make the soil really, really healthy because they basically inoculated it with the worm castings. But anyway, so in here, if you look in here, this is all of the dahlia debris that I had once I had completed doing all the dahlias. And in here, it's also full of worms, which I'm having a hard time finding right now, but there's just a ton of worms in here. There's one. Come here, you. Quit hiding on me. He just hid in here. There we go. Well, you can see there's the worm right there. Oops. What I decided to do, and there's plenty more than that one, is instead of dumping this out, because it was getting towards the end of the day and it was cold, and I thought, well, they've been in this nice warm, well, it's not that warm. It's, I think it's 17 degrees in here down with the heater on. Instead of putting them out now into the cold evening and night, because it was going to go down to -2 that night, I decided to just leave them in here, and I poured a little bit of water in here so that they had moisture in here as well. Basically, I've accidentally got a tiny little worm farm going until the weather warms up enough that now, you know, our soil is frozen, so I'm not going to dump them out now. But yeah, so the garbage cans full of soil that I use for starting my seeds in is very inoculated with worm castings, because the garbage cans are absolutely full of earthworms. And with the plant debris that I got from when I was doing the dahlias, there will also be some plant debris in my where am I here? There, in that file tote of soil that I have in here. All the plant debris that I have and all the worms will go in there until I can put them separate. This I had on the table last week because I was emptying out my bags of dahlia tubers that had lots of sawdust in them. But I now have it beside the soil, which is there, because I'm going to just show you right now. Grab my sweet pea trays and put them in there. And then this can now collect any extra dirt at the bottom of it while I'm working with the seed trays, and then it can get dumped back into my file tote of soil right there. So for the sweet peas, I am growing 4 different kinds. Oh, let me get that back out again because I didn't tell you what I was growing. I'm growing butterfly blend. Oops, hang on. Butterfly blend. Early multiflora mix. Just got my fingers all dirty from putting it in the soil over there. Early, what did I say? Multiflora mix. Mammoth blend. And Royal Family blend. Now, I am doing 2 trays of these. I like these because they're tall pots. The sweet peas do tend to get long roots. These pots were all free from the Campbell River Garden Center. They had, and even the trays that they're sitting in were free. You know, these dividers, I got them just basically like that. Lots of red pots, lots of black pots. I like the color coding. I will not have to label anything because what I do is I go black in the alphabet. Oops, don't cover up my microphone. Black in the alphabet comes before red in the alphabet. Therefore, this is the first one that will get filled. And the 4 sweet peas, I will put in alphabetical order. So the first one will be butterfly blend because B comes before E for early multiflora, which will go in the second one. Then in the alphabet comes M for mammoth, and it'll go in the third one. And then finally, Royal Family Mix is the last one in the alphabet, and it'll go in the last one. So I will know exactly which sets of these pots is which sweet pea without having to do any labeling whatsoever. So I'm now going to fill the pots here with soil just by putting the pot into the soil, pushing it down like that, and filling these all up. You don't need to see me do that, so I'm going to do that for both sets of trays, and then I'll be back and show you how I do the sweet peas. Okay, I got the 2 seed trays stacked that are going to go for the sweet peas. The first one I'm going to do is butterfly blend, and I know it's going to go into these outside rows of black. So I've got my butterfly blend seeds. I've got an empty yogurt container. And I've got a wide plant tag. And by the way, I make my plant tag out of strips of yogurt containers, much the same as, you know, this one. You just cut it down in strips. Well, first, yeah, you cut it down here, then you remove the base, and then you just cut it in strips. So they all have, you know, like a slight little curve to them. But they make a great plant tag. And anyway, all I'm going to do with this one is cover up the opening of the jar and pour the water out. The plant tag holds the seeds in place. That's what I'm left with. So I can just take them out of the jar. Luckily, if they fall right in here. Put two and diagonally from each other, maybe about an inch in from the corner on each pot. And I'll do this row, and then I'll do the lower row as well. And then what I'm going to do is just push them in about an inch with my finger. And once they're all pushed in, I'll just push the soil over them. And that's all I'm going to do. This soil is really, really wet because of a few of the windstorms that we've had. Outside, it blew the lids off the garbage cans that had soil, and the soil got really, really wet. And I'm down in the bottom of this container, and I mean, it's so, oops, there's a rock. It's so soaking wet. But of course, the worms love it, and this is the worms that I got just out of doing these two ones. There's a nice big fat one. There's a slightly thinner one. There's a bunch of little small ones all curled up. There's some even smaller ones in here. So they're going to go into my little worm farm that I have going until the ground unthaws. And yeah, so you know that with all those worms in there, this soil is really, really well inoculated with the worm casting. So that might be one reason why I have really, really success with my seedlings when I do them. Again, you don't need to see me do all this because it'll take a while to do. I showed you how I do the first ones. And once the seeds are all, and I always have a rag here because, especially with the soil that wet, so I can clean my fingers off a bit before I handle the seeds. And I'll come back and we'll do the next seeds that I'm going to do. Okay, I got all the sweet peas done. I've got them up on the seed rack. I will put a dome over top of them, but I haven't done that yet. I'm going to put the domes up on the end on all the things that need domes. I've put the soil in for what I'm doing next, which is my Black Button Bachelor buttons. And this is a new package. I open it up and just put some, see, and I can actually use my container seeds to hold it upright until I need to finish it. I don't know if you can see the seeds here. They're very, very easy to see, but they're still very small. Now in this tray I have, what have I got? 6, 12, 18, 24, 48, 96. I've got 96 holes. So I'm going to do 2 seeds per cell. And I won't thin them out, but I won't divide them either. So I'm just going to grab 2 at a time off of here. Really easy because of the white on them, and put them in the cells. And then get that up on the seed tray as well. This is where long fingernails becomes a bit of a nuisance. And if you drop a few, it doesn't really matter because they're pretty cheap. So I'll get that done, and then we'll be back with the next one. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about the Bachelor buttons. So they're supposed to be covered with soil. So what I've done is I've just pressed them so they're stuck to the soil. And then I'm going to grab some of my soil that's here and just roll soil on top of them as best I can, because this is really wet and it's really hard to get that thin amount on it. But as long as I don't see the white seeds, it should be all okay. And then it can go up on the seed tray with everything else. All right, back in a sec. So the next thing we're going to plant isn't actually a flower, it's tomatoes. But people do use tomatoes in bouquets for the greenery. However, I probably won't because we just love tomatoes and I'm growing them as tomatoes because there's no reason why you can't grow food products, vegetables, fruits within your flower beds. So I'm going to do 9 of my favorite tomato, which is Health Kick tomato. It's a Rona type tomato. It has really, really good flavor. It's really, really productive, and it's not prone to any diseases. I love it, the flavor of it. That's why it's my favorite, but it's also really easy to grow. It's hard to get. You can get it in Canada at TNT Seeds. Now, there's actually 11 spots in here, and that's because Bruce asked if we could grow some cherry tomatoes this year. And I have a package of this, which is left over from when we lived on Cortez Island and we moved in 2005. These seeds are ancient, but I'm going to take the 2 pots that's there and put all the seeds that's in here in those 2 pots and see what happens. Maybe I won't get any, maybe I will get some. It will be interesting. So how many seeds have we got in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, about 17. Oh no, there's more down at the bottom. In other words, lots. But this will be an interesting experiment to use these all up on these last 2 pots. And how I know them different from the others is I'm just going to put a plant tag in them. I didn't tag the bachelor buttons. There was no reason to. My map of the elevation shows me exactly where the bachelor buttons are, and I will recognize them when they come up anyway, so there's no point in tagging them. Okay, so there is just a ton of these tomatoes. We'll see what happens. I'm pushing them in, trying to cover them up as best as I can. And then we'll get on to my, where's my rag? There it is. Onto my staking tomato health kick. So I'll put them in the remaining 9 spots in here. And then this tub comes with its own lid. So that'll be its own humidity dome. So you don't need to see me put those in. I'll be back in a sec again. Okay, before we get on to the next seed, it's time to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks very much. Okay, now let's get on with what I'm going to grow next. Next, what I'm going to grow is lettuce plants. So I have this smaller tray. Oops, knocking that over. And I have 4 of these 4-packs. I'm growing less lettuce when I'm starting out than I did last year because I'm going to do more successions. So normally I would plant 2. Well, first of all, normally I would fill this up and it would hold more than this. It would hold, I don't know how many it would hold, but anyway, and I would double up on them so that I would end up with 12 romaine, 12 leaf, and 12 butter lettuces. But I'm not doing that this year because I'm going to do more successions. I will double up on the first succession because I can cut them when they're smaller. But after that, all my other successions are going to be smaller volumes. So in this one, I'm going to go romaine, 1 type of red, 1 type of leaf, 1 type of leaf, and then butter. And I am going to double sawdust. I am going to double them up in here. Now, this romaine is my favorite romaine, and it grows really well in our location. And its name kind of makes sense that it would because it's called Coastal Star. And it's pelleted. And I'd rather not buy pelleted, but I couldn't get unpelleted seeds in that when I bought that package. And yet this new package, which is the same kind, is unpelleted, so that's good. So we'll use up the pelleted ones first. So then for the 2 leaf lettuces, I'm growing Drunken Woman, which I tried last year for the first time, just because I liked the name, and I loved it. So this is definitely a lettuce that I will always be growing. And the other one is Red Salad Bowl Loose Leaf, which is actually an oak leaf lettuce, which I'm not as excited about because it's not as productive as the other lettuces, but that doesn't mean it doesn't taste good. But I will grow it for this first succession because I want to have more plants smaller size, so the fact that it doesn't grow as productively is fine. And then the other one that I'm growing is just the Butter Crunch. And do it basically just, the seeds are, Well, the seeds are different per, like, so of course for the romaine seeds, they're these round pelleted kinds, so they're really easy to get onto the soil. But the regular lettuce seeds, I'll just open these up and show them to you, because I used up all my seeds last year, so some of these are new, and I got all of these at West Coast Seeds, which is a BC seed company. And I like buying from them, first of all, because they're from BC, and second of all, because they tend to supply the seeds that do well in our area, which is always really, really important. Now, as you can see, these are small, but they're light, so they'll be really easy to see against the dark soil. The oak leaf, or red salad bowl, is small but dark. Not so easy to see against the soil. And then the butterhead lettuce seeds. And when I finish the butterhead lettuce seeds, I may not buy it again, because I much prefer the Drunken Woman loose leaf and the Romaine Coastal Star. So this is sort of like an extra one. But I have the seeds, so I'll use them. And they too are very, very dark in size. So I will get those going, sprinkled on the surface. Do they need to be buried? I don't know. Lettuce grows best, blah, blah, blah. Start every 2 to 3 weeks. It says start in April. I start in February. Yeah, so seeds, 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep. So I'll just pat them onto the soil and then try to lightly cover them. Normally I would just like cover them with the vermiculite, but I don't have any yet. When I get my vermiculite in a couple of days, I will go back and cover everything with vermiculite, but I just don't have it now. The other thing that I'm doing for watering is I'm doing the old-fashioned thing where you get the milk jug, and then I popped 4 holes into the lid. It works really well, really well. If you haven't ever done that, I'll just show you quickly how the water comes out. This is empty, so see that? It's a very nice, controlled, easy, very easy flow. So once I've taken the trays up to the shelves, then I lightly water them with that. And I do it after they're on the shelves so that they're not so heavy, because the soil is already soaking wet, which is quite heavy. Anyway, I'll be back with whatever comes next. By the way, don't forget to leave questions down below, that not just for answering on this video, but for my February Q&A, which will be on the last Wednesday of this month. So now comes the seed that everybody hates doing, snapdragons. So I have 4 types of snapdragons that I'm growing. And for that reason, I am using, again, it's heavy when it's full of soil, the same type of seed trays that I used for the sweet peas, because I can do the same thing. I don't have to label anything. Black, red in rows along here. Black, red, black, red. The outside black one will be the first one in the alphabet, which is Orleans Early Lemon. Then comes, for the first red one, or for the red one beside it, will be Legend Light Pink. Then the black one beside that will be Costa Silver. And then will come Chantilly Bronze for the outside red one. So they will go in alphabetical order, starting with the black row, because the black row alphabetically comes before the red row. Now, the seeds, I ordered packages of 200, I believe. 250 seeds. I really only need, I think, 50 seeds of each. That's 250 seeds. So I'm going to try 1, 2, 3, and only pour 1/5 of the seeds into the palm of my hand, and then very carefully just sprinkle them into the 8 pots, so which would put 4 or 5 seeds in each pot. I'm not doing with a toothpick individually. That would just drive me crazy. That's too many. That's probably not enough. That looks about right. And what I'm going to do, and it's the same thing that I did with the lettuce seeds and the and anything that's a small seed. I'm just going to get some in between my fingers and just roll them out, and where they land, they land. As long as I have some in each pot. Now the pots are big, deep, not because I need deep pots, it's because I wanted to be able to do the black, red, but also they grow quite slowly, so that'll give them, above the ground anyway, that'll give them plenty of place for their roots to form below it before I get them out into the garden, so there won't be a rush to get them out. Okay, roll my fingers and just assume I'm getting some stuff out there. There. Now, if for some reason I didn't get any seeds in one of the pots, I can carefully divide. They are not as sensitive as people make them out to be. When I plant them out in the garden, if I've got 5 or 6 growing in one pot, or 10, I'll just pull them apart. They'll basically be, what's that called? When you pull them apart and there's no soil on the roots, they're bare root. They'll basically be bare root, and I'll plant them that way if I have a whole clump of them growing in the same spot. And they do fine. So I'm not worried about how close they are together, or how far apart they are together, or if a pot didn't actually get any, because if there's too many one pot and one pot's empty, I'll just take up a few of the seedlings and move them over. I haven't really ever had any die off doing that. And that is that the last seed? Oh no, I got more to do still. So I will continue on with this. There's not much to see, just rolling them out, each one through my fingers onto this. I'll get it lightly watered with my old-fashioned, which I'm quite enjoying using. I didn't realize these things were so easy to use with the 4 little things. This is a lot easier on your wrists than having to pump all the time. And I'm thinking of my dahlias. So I may just always water my dahlias with this technique instead of with the pump spray. But yeah, so there's no rush on the pump spray because that thing's working great. So I'll get the snapdragons done and up onto the shelves, and then we'll get on with what's next. All right, we are now going to, oh, sorry, didn't see my microphone on me. I thought it had gone somewhere. And yet I can see the volume going up on the plug-in part of my phone there, so whatever. We're now going to do ranunculus. So I've got a container to pour water in. So I just do my ranunculus in these tubs, and again, I label them. So these are Pauline, and there's 122 in this container soaking. I'm going to pour the water out. Now these are ranunculus that I dug up last fall. And they've been soaking for 4 hours. I changed the water once. And this is basically what they look like when you dig them up. I don't, you've got all the little root hairs on them, etc. You've got a little bit of the flower or the stem stalk still on there. I would say the corms generally aren't as big as the ones that you buy. Some of them are. There's a bigger one there. And the corms look like little octopus with many, many legs. So, put my seeds away, out of the way here so you can see what I'm doing. So what I do with the ranunculus is I've got my containers here. I'll pull one out and show you. They are drink containers. This is probably half and half cream container. I cut it to a height that I like. And then I also cut these dividers, and once I've put some soil in there, I just slide the divider down and divide the soil into 2 spots. So one ranunculus will go on this side and one will go on that side. And when it comes time to planting and you dump this out, you can this divider separates the 2 plants really easily. The roots are not entwined at all because of this divider, and that is literally all the space each ranunculus corm needs. So for instance, if I take this and I push it down in there, you can see that is, can you see that in there? Just a perfect space for it. And then I'll grab one and I'll put it on the other side. And I push the corms down so that if there's any hollow spot in them, they're good. And that is how I will leave that. As they start to grow, I will fill it up to the top with soil. But until they start to grow, I leave the surface of them free of soil. And that way, if there's any duds, I can just pull it out and, you know, slowly combine down how the amount of pots that I have, so that I'm kind of conserving on soil a bit. Now that's how I do the ranunculus. Now I also have my anemones here. There's that pot of water. I pour the water out into it. Oops, one went in there. Okay, let's dig in there and get that out. There we go. Dry my hand off. So when you buy ranunculus corms, this is what they look like. And this is Anemone Carmel Pastel, and there's 100 in here. And this will be the last time I'm buying anemones, I believe. And last year was the last time I'm buying ranunculus because I have enough. So this is what an anemone corm looks like. I'm holding it upside down so you can see the point. Well, I don't know if you can see that. Hang on. I'll hold it upright. So the point goes down. The plant grows out of that flat top. In fact, some of these look like they're already starting to sprout in here. Can I see one that's sprouting? You can sort of see the white spots on that. Now, contrary to what other people do, they say, you know, push the pointy side down so that the top sinks. But anemone corms are prone to rot. I am not going to push it straight down. I'm going to put it in on an angle so that water does not pool on the top of the anemone corm. And I've got these pots for the anemones, and I'm going to see how many I can fit comfortably in one of these pots. I think 4, because I'm on a space-saving mission. Soil saving too. So again, I'm going to plant them just slightly on their sides, and I'm going to make sure the points are all pointing in the same direction so they're not interfering. So can you see that, how I've got them on their sides? They're basically planted like that, practically on a 45. And that will reduce the chances of your anemone corms rotting, which is really important in my climate because we are a wet climate. We're not wet in the summer, but we are wet usually until the end of June. But, you know, usually means nothing these days. And they are long in the garden by that point. And also just even in the seed room, I found that when I was just planting them straight up and down, some of them were rotting and molding just because they have a tendency to do that. They're very, very sensitive. So by putting them on the angle like that, that will help keep their heads dry, especially since I'm going to keep them exposed until they start growing. Okay, I'm going to get my 100, is it 100? 100 anemones done, and my 122 Pauline ranunculus done, and I'll be back. Okay, I got everything done that I wanted to get done today. I still have a lot of anemones and ranunculus to do. The problem is I'm running really low on soil in here. I had 2 totes that I brought in. Well, and I knew that I would. That's why I didn't soak anymore. But the garbage can that has the rest of the soil in it is now frozen solid because we finally got the really, really cold temperatures. So I'm going to have to wheel that garbage can into our shop space and have it thaw out, which means I won't soak any anemones or ranunculus tomorrow because I don't know if the soil will have thawed out over the course of from now till then. But I will start to do the rest of the ranunculus and the anemones the day after tomorrow. But anyway, so I'll show you what I got going on here. So this top tray, as I told you before, has the dahlias in it and the one empty tray for experiments. And then on this lower shelving unit, same thing. I've got dahlias, empties for experiments, and more dahlias. And then as we get down lower on the level of this first taller shelf, I have empties for ranunculus, empties for ranunculus. But on the bottom here, if you can see down here, is I've got all the ranunculus that I just did, as well as a third one up here. So that took all of my, oh, I have to label them still. I will label them because I'll get confused as to what's what, and I've already forgotten which ones those were. I think those were the, what were those? Let me just look at my container. They were the one, oh, I'm spinning you around. Sorry, I hope I'm not making you sick while I did that. Oh yeah, there they are, the Pauline ranunculus. Need 3 labels, one for each one of those 3 trays, so that I don't get confused. On the lower shelving unit here, I have my sweet peas. Then I have my lettuce. And then I have sweet peas beside it. So that's that row. The next level, I have the tomatoes in there, the bachelor buttons in there, the snapdragons there, and then on the lower level with the light off, I've got 2 trays of the anemones that I did label caramel pastel in there. And I made a change when I went off camera. Instead of putting 4 in each container, I did 6 because I realized I was going to run out of soil otherwise. So that saved me a whole flat that I would have had to have gone into. And in fact, the second flat's only half full. So then on the other side is where I've got all of my dahlias on 3 shelves. But on the bottom shelf, it's waiting for more ranunculus. So that's where that all is. And I mentioned quite a few times referencing things that had in my last week's video of starting the dahlias. So just in case you didn't get a chance to watch that, I'll put it up here and I'll see you next week. Bye.